Meeko, tell us a little bit about how it all got started. 2013 was really when the first
Yes.
mass shut-off started. It really started picking up steam in 2014. And how did you get involved in all of this?
Well, I'm just a normal, regular guy, just living here in the city of Detroit, active with my neighbors, active with my community. And what happened is that I had been already involved with city business, fighting against emergency managers, consent agreements, bankruptcies, and possible all types of ruin. Like the city was on the brink of insolvency. So I got involved as a resident just to try to voice my opinion and to come up with solutions and to stop whatever that was happening. And then I was laying on my mother's couch and I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I happened to see the news. And the news report said that the Detroit water shutoffs, they were shutting off mass numbers of homes to people in the city of Detroit. But these businesses and corporations were like the most debtors. And at that time I said, yo, why are they shutting people's water off? If the companies owe this much money, these are like sports stadiums that owed like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and residents that only owed, a small fraction of that. So I said, yo, we can't let the city get this water shut off. So what I did was I organized amongst some friends. I called, all of the commissioners, the water board commissioners, my city council person, all the city council people, including the mayor. And I tried to get meetings and such with them. It wasn't working because nobody wouldn't hear me. So I started going among certain activist groups, and they were having strategy sessions and such like that. At this time, I am I'm not an activist, but I'm, currently getting involved in different things. I was a group member of Detroiters Resisting Emergency Management. And in that group, we had been already talking about water shutoffs and such of that nature. So when I was going along with these people and such, I just felt like, we were just strategizing, nothing wasn't getting done, we weren't getting out in the streets, you know what I'm saying? So I decided that I would get with a group of my friends, and we started the Detroit Water Brigade. This was actually a group of people who just wanted to deliver water and to people who were shut off. We didn't know exactly what was happening back then in 2014, that they were just going to shut off, all the water in the city of Detroit, and folks were going to be in need, like it were going to cause a public and health safety disaster. So we had to spring into action, whatever we had to do. We raised donations, cases of water, to be delivered to families in the city of Detroit. I think that summer, that first 30 days, we raised like $30,000. And that all went on to people's water bills to save them and such of that nature. I mean, we've tried the best we knew how, and that's why Hydrate Detroit, came into fruition, because we wanted to get more deeper into the water struggle. But we definitely wanted to teach water conservation, water purification, and also other educational aspects of water, health, and environmental education.
So, Detroit Water Brigade, you were definitely among, I think, the first few groups, helping people deliver water. What were you seeing on the ground? I mean, I guess I'm asking you to sort of reflect and think back on some of the stories that you were hearing at that point, that first year.
Yeah. It was just devastation. People were getting their water shut off. People were afraid of having their water shut off. They didn't know what to do. I was one of the first people that advocated for a water affordability fair back in 2014 that was held at Cobo Center, Cobo Hall. It was over 1,500 people showed up and showed out, up to 5,000. And I just said, thank the Lord, because I needed people to know that we went through all this trouble. There is help. Come on down. Some of those people got waivers. They even got 2-week grace periods, to come into the water department and such. And that was all from the advocacy of community groups, activists, and the world. They made that move. That was one of the first things I said coming into this, was that we need a day or a few days where people could come down, settle their situations in private, and that they can work out, at least getting on a plan. Well, at that time, people were, it was a lot of misinformation, a lot of propaganda. There's even so much as our former city councilwoman that was saying, oh, if you don't pay your water bill, or if you can't afford to pay your water bill, then you should go down to the Detroit River and get a bucket. And that was one of the most racially insensitive things I've ever heard in my life, living in the city of Detroit. I remember back then we were running up on people who houses were, were like in dire straits because they had no water for either weeks, for months. And also, this is where I ran into Nicole Hill. And I first met her at a strategy session, and she said that she haven't had any water in 6 weeks. And so I asked her, what can I do to help you? Like, this is unacceptable, and I wanted to arrange. We had cases of water coming in from people around the world, so I definitely wanted to. That's why we came up with the Share Water program, so that we share water, we share love, and we share with everyone who is affected. So when I encountered Miss Nicole Hill, that was probably like one of the first experiences I had with someone that actually had their water shut off. The stench that goes in from your food rotting in your refrigerator. That's probably like one of the most stenches I'll never be able to get out, even talking to you now. The floors are sticky. It's humid. The kids don't have anywhere to wash. And you're stuck under a $5,000 water bill that you can't get out of, that was already put upon you when you first got into this property. So basically dealing with those elements there, you tried to fight and become our best advocate and such, but the problems were too greater because it's not just her. There's probably, 2,000 other people that are in her situation dealing with this right now as we speak. Then back in 2014, you had not so many controls as we do now. You have bill pay. You could pay over the computer or in some kiosks. We didn't have those measures. The only way you had to pay your bill was to come down to the water department, get on the payment plan, and agree to some 12 to 24 month deal where it wasn't even feasible or affordable. We had to fight to make sure that they're reasonable and affordable, which they still aren't, but and the other thing, the big thing that I remember is the Netroots Nation March back in 2014. Detroit Water Brigade, we were featured in that conference, and to see the people that were there, I just felt like that was my first time learning the political hanky-panky around, water issues and water conservation. Because to learn that people, people didn't understand why is Detroit dealing with this and what's going on here, you know what I'm saying? But to not have compassion or to not care, meaning that, you see Detroit is having a bad water shutoff situation, there should be a pot. And that pot was only filled by, certain entities of the city, but it was not overflowed or filled by many of the components that we need in order to help a large mass number of people get out of water hell.
Did you think that, so that was 2014 and we're in 2019 right now, did you think that it would continue for that many years?
No. I think about that myself each and every day. It's been 5 years. Wow. Stuff that usually takes a year, or at least takes a summer, it's taken about 5 years to achieve. And the problem is more bigger than just pay your effing bill. It's not even so much as the part to pay your effing bill, but it's concerning around the ability, around the policy, and around some of the rules and regulations of paying your effing bill.
Almost seems like, the roadblocks are there on purpose.
They are. And what I mean by like on purpose is, you're making it so much hard for people that they're just going to say, hey, I'm going to walk away, wash my hands clean, I'm just going to go. Not knowing that water bill travels wherever they will, because they made it so much now that they can put a social security number, just like they do on cable and other utilities. But I mean, to have a $1,500 water bill chase me around the country, that's just unacceptable. You know what I'm saying? You're literally putting me into further ruin, financial ruin, because I'm not going to pay the water bill if I have my medications to worry about. I'm not going to pay the water bill if I need food in my house. I'm not going to pay the water bill. The water bill is the last on my mind if I need clothes or I need to feed my kids or I need to do for my kids. I don't give a damn about the water bill. I just give a damn about my survival. That's what the normal thinking is in the city of Detroit. It's not even so much as to, people are responsible, but how much can you bear, when you're trying to juggle everything? Just like we said earlier, people feel like they're a failure. That's true because most people, are the breadwinners. They were former households. They used to work. They never been in this situation. Now we're in a recession. Now we're dealing with economic hard times, and that's affected everybody. It even affects those that could pay their water bill. And some people may front like they can pay their water bill, but they're suffering just like you and me are.
So Mr. Brown of DWSD says that he empathizes with the people affected by water shutoffs, but that the larger problem is systemic poverty in the city of Detroit, and you can't hold DWSD responsible for poverty in that large scale. How would you respond to that?
I don't respond to that because he doesn't know struggle. He doesn't know what it's like to be poor and have to live on to your last, to whatever the cards have been dealt with. He's never had to deal with struggle to where, he's trying to make on a water bill and his utility bill, and he only has this much amount of money, so he has to try to bargain with whomever. Gary Brown is not a part of Detroit. Let's just say this: he's a part of he's a part of an entity that is further hell bent on conquering Detroit, and he's hoping whatever pennies that he can get out of those crumbs that will satisfy him for his next job opportunity. That's all it is. I push back against all notions of systemic poverty because people have been struggling for a very long time, and there has been no compassion. There's been no let up. There's also been no strategy or solution to improve the lives of people dealing with poverty in the city of Detroit. The first issue you have is your DTE bill, and they rise up rates drastically, and you get literally nothing, but you have to be on something. The water is another thing. You didn't have payment plans. Well, before you did, but they weren't as much used as they are now. Now we're fighting for a grace period. We're fighting for certain protections around payment plans and shutoffs. And also with Mr. Brown, I don't think he knows anything about systemic poverty and how it affects him. This man got rich off the city of Detroit. Despite the politics, despite the business of it all, he's nothing more than a rat just looking for new cheese. And as I said before, Gary Brown doesn't know struggle, because it shows every meeting that we have in the public comments are how people cannot afford to pay their water bills. He won't even get up to help to calculate water bills by income. He's spoken against the water affordability plan. He's spoken against water amnesty. He's spoken even so much as to, giving reversing the 10-30-50 plan into giving deals of 50 to 70% off in order for people to pay down the final price. He maintains that we're running a robust, compassionate program, but I don't see anything compassionate where you don't zero out people. I don't see anything compassionate or robust when people are falling off of payment plans that you set. And also, I don't see anything improving where there's, over 150,000 people that are on 50% payment plans that are one payment away from missing to be back in shut-off status all over again.
So, on that note, the recent Water Board Commissioners meeting, you were there, and we were there also, just recording the events and how the commissioners were responding to the questions that were raised. And they were talking about the rate hikes over there as well. What was your impression of how they responded to the questions that people were throwing out at them?
BS. Because we've been through this, we go through this every year. Mm-hmm. And after you see it, after a couple of years, you already get used to. We had a meeting 2 months prior. And that was supposed to be a public session, a public conversation about the rate hikes, and barely anybody attended until that meeting we were at. That was the rate hike meeting, and they approved the rates. They approved the rates even when people said no, even when people said this is too high, even when people said this is not affordable, you're not dealing with the tenets of affordability, they still raised the rates. And then the next week, it seems like they announced a $500 million bond that they just found or they received for new water infrastructure. And I looked at that and was like, where's the $537 million that was promised for water affordability? Or the bonds and such that could have paid back that money that was taken for interest rate swaps. So that's where we differ because, that last meeting, I walk in the door and Gary Brown is like literally barking at people. I don't know if he had a bad day, if he come out of a bad meeting or so, but he was not happy. And then when I got up there to speak and I said that, stop asking us for more money when you don't provide us service and such. And then he got to screaming, this, that, and the other. And Meeko, you use my staff every day to get through your clients, and we help you the best we can. And he's looking for admiration or validation, and I would not. That's what he's dying for, and I would not give him the satisfaction because until you do right by me, until you do right by the people of the city of Detroit, you will receive no praise or admiration until you do what the hell I tell you to do. And that is to bring us affordable water at a price we all can pay.
Current work and programs, and just really what's on the goals right now, the agenda, I guess, for Hydrate.
Right now, we're currently maintaining our work in the field. So the number one thing is making sure those phone lines are always open and accessible 24/7. Right. The second thing is actually trying to do whatever we can to push water relief amnesty. That's where you get, 30, 50 to 70% off of your arrearages, or you get them cut or literally erased. And then you pay out a final price in order to get back in a good standing again. That's been the number one goal of this organization, is to get that policy in place. The second thing is definitely making sure water is affordable throughout the whole country. So I've been in conversations with a few city leaders and a few people that I've been in contact with, going to some symposiums, water conferences and such. I'm even talking with people who are calling me, asking for my advice and expertise. And I said, I'm just a normal, regular guy. I don't really know much about water, but I do know about municipal water systems and how they are supposed to work and such. So that's why I'm focused on challenging the business of DWSD and to make sure that any policy or any recommendation that is made, you know what I'm saying, it has to fit in line with the business practices of Detroit Water and Sewage Department. But not only is just that particular entity, for all water and sewage departments around the country. Because water affordability is becoming a hot topic across the country. Water bills are going up with no explanations. And, you know, we deserve a fair price that we can pay that is affordable. Yeah.
You know, I find it strange sometimes how, you know, DWSD is a public entity, right? And yet, in this conversation, you yourself actually talked about the business practices of DWSD.
Oh, yes.
And you're not the only one. A lot of people who we talked to or who have interviewed, both organizers as well as residents, they often talk about how this doesn't gel with the business model.
That's right.
And so I often wonder, well, why are we even talking about the business model over here? Because this is technically not supposed to be a business organization.
You know what? It's a very good question, because people usually think that the water company is the same as the energy company. It's the same as the phone company. They're supposed to have rules and regulations. They're supposed to at least work with you. Seeing that this is a public entity, this is ran by a municipal versus the energy company that's privately regulated. And they have a service commission that regulates their rates, it regulates their operations, their way of governing. The water department doesn't have oversight. Now that's where I'm coming into and providing that oversight and advocating, you know, for a community board, advisory board of people, you know, that are supervising the water and sewage department, just like there's an advisory board over the police, just like there's an advisory board over city council and different citizen district councils. We need to make sure that public oversight and accountability is number one at this juncture. And you mentioned business models. So the business model of DWSD, where yes, it's supposed to be, you know, you miss 60 to 90 days of payment, you're supposed to be shut off. But they don't always follow by their policies and their practices. There is supposed to be a grace period if there is a concern of payment issues, or you know, you lose your job or whatever. There is supposed to be an opportunity for you to enter into something, and you're supposed to be protected. There's supposed to be subsidized water for senior citizens. There's supposed to be a rate plan for those that are for seniors. And there has not been any business model that has been satisfactory to the city of Detroit. It has gone unchecked. And I believe that's why they brought Mr. Brown in, to hone in on those business practices and those models. And it still is failing, and it's still lacking in accurate, satisfactory.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on, you know, the failings of the institution overall, but you know, I just keep wondering that when we keep thinking of these institutions like businesses, we tend to expect, you know, the bottom line to matter more than human costs.
Well,
and it shouldn't.
Yeah, but when you have mismanagement, right, miscalculation, errors, too many errors. Right. And any activist and community organizer will tell you that the business practices are out modeled. They're not a model that we would want to continue with anymore. But if you're influenced to get ideas, if you're gullible enough to believe what may have happened in other cities, Detroit is similarly looking like New Orleans. New Orleans have shut off a large number of people after Hurricane Katrina. Then they institute reinstatement fees, which are like between $45 to $95. I have never seen this happen. When I was on the Blue Ribbon panel back in 2015, most of my concerns were about the business model of DWSD and how they were operating. And then these policy recommendations that I were giving, you know, budget billing, 11-month budget billing, because we don't get billed we're not supposed to get billed in the winter. We're not supposed to get shut off in the winter or in extreme temperatures. Flex pay, you know, if a person is paid, then that's supposed to count towards their bill. let's say if I paid $200 over what was already, but that's supposed to be accounted towards my bill, and nothing's supposed to happen to me as long as my bill is in good standing. Different things that are supposed to, make our lives easier. We're supposed to have an app that's on our phones to show our water conservation and to be more wiseful of that, so that we don't waste water. There has not been any of those. They've just been, pay your bill, don't worry about what we're doing. We're adding all these new things and such, but as long as you pay your bill, just shut up and take it and just be satisfied that you have water. That's not an attitude I like, and that's not an attitude I'm going to tolerate.
So two words, I guess, I'm hearing a lot from you are accountability and affordability. Oh. Those are the two major cornerstones of what I'm hearing from you. Is that correct?
Accountability is basically holding those responsible. The water department is supposed to be held responsible and always supposed to be held accountable. That's our right. We have a right as citizens, we have a right as residents, and we have a right as community to hold the water department accountable and to hold it responsible for things that on their end. Affordability is really much a word that, water bills are supposed to be affordable. So is energy, so is phone and everything else. But I want to see more efforts at making sure it is a fair price that we all can pay. Because we talk about water affordability all the time, especially with the suburbs. They're saying, oh, you just don't want to pay your water bill. Just pay your water bill. That's not true. That's never been true. We wanted a price that we all could afford to pay, and we wanted every 3 months under $100. Not even so much as $60, $70. I mean, that's what the rate is now, and people can't afford that. I never thought water should be at $60, $70 a month. You can't tell me anything of commodification, the rising price, right? You can't tell me anything that's like contributing to the price of water rising up, and why we need to justify these rates. No, it's okay. And I'm getting a little tired, so maybe I'm trying to keep up if I'm not answering anything or so. I'm just.
No, you're doing great.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to hold on. I feel like I'm just gonna fall asleep.
Two major components of the bill. So we a few weeks ago we did a series of listening sessions in Brightmoor. We also did focus groups with some seniors at St. Pat Senior Center, and a couple of things that. Couple of components in the bill that really across the board these people we spoke to keep coming back to are the sewage fees and the drainage charges.
Yes, that is true. That is the biggest components on the bill that makes the water bill astronomically high. Now, here's what people don't understand. Okay, so the water is one flat fee. You just pay the water bill. Mm-hmm. Okay, everybody can just pay, they can see it's always going to be a lower price. The sewerage and the drainage fees, they were all combined as one bill. So you paid that as one whole price. What happened is that they took the sewerage and the drainage, they broke them up, established them as separate fees, and then doubled down on those fees. So sewerage has always been the biggest component. I'm asking questions as to how much it costs to flush the toilet. How much does it cost to take a dump? Okay, no one's telling me how much it costs. 5 cents a flush, 10 cents a flush, 25 cents a flush. Okay, drainage. All right, this is a service already provided by the water department. They are correct when they said we have paid this since the 70s. That is correct. We've always paid for, cleaning, processing, and treatment. That is already supposed to be involved in the equation. Mm-hmm. So when you come back and tell me that the sewerage fees has went up, so is the drainage, and no explanation why, I'm starting to wonder what type of racket is this. Then you're also telling me that the drainage fees are going up, but there's been no calculative method that you've been able to give to me. There's been no formula, and there also has been no explanation as to impervious acreage versus pervious. The average Detroit citizen wouldn't even know that. If you tell them you're collecting rainwater off of their driveways and their hard surfaces. If this water is leaking from the driveway onto the street and it's going into the drain, we pay for that. But do we pay for the other water that's leaking, that's filling up in the middle of the street, causing, water worlds and floods? They're not telling you that. So we have to press for more accountability. I mean, that's all we mean accountability, is that someone needs to be held responsible and needs to explain themselves to the residents. They also need to answer certain questions that we have, versus barking at us, telling us this is the way it's going to be, and then trying to make presentations to unsuspecting residents who are already seeing that this is a scam. The drainage fees are nothing but a scam. The sewerage and this whole operation that they got going on, it's at the behest of poor residents paying more than the corporate citizens who, they're actually not people, but they're actually entities who are supposed to pay. They're not supposed to receive free water, but in the city of Detroit, corporations get free water and we just get the axe. It's crazy.
So where do you see this headed? Where do you see, we talked earlier, for instance, that it's already been 5 years. Water shutoffs are still going on, although they are at a lower rate compared to earlier.
I don't believe that. I don't believe they're at a lower rate. They're just not reported and investigated thoroughly. So you have groups like We the People of Detroit and Good Jobs Now and such, and they're doing the work of, combining, water, housing, and also financial matters. And when you combine those data tables together, you're going to see that the water situation is going to get worse, and it's only getting worse. I mean, we thought that a one-time donation of corporatists was going to pay for all the water bills. It has not. We thought that the RAP program, the Water Residential Assistance Program, was going to cover. It did not. We thought that THAW was going to step in, and that's the region's provider and utility help, and they have not, because they're not set up to handle those type of situations. You have us, groups on the ground that have been, groups like Hydrate and such. We can't continue to keep the burden on us, and have the shift of responsibility falls on us. It has to be something done at the bigger level. The mayor, the governor, or whomever is going to have to step in, and they're going to have to make policy changes. Chicago, they ordered it in executively for their water shutoffs because it was damaging so much of the infrastructure. What about Detroit? I mean, Detroit is one of the most poorest cities, 60% abject poverty. And, we're not saying that we want free water. We never said that. That's what the elites say. That's what the news keep transmitting, is that all we want is free water. We don't want to pay for it. But let me tell you something. We have a spiritual connection to water. We live off the Great Lakes. This is why people believe water should be free, because if we live off the Great Lakes and it provides us as a source, then we should get a special accommodated rate. We should get a subsidized rate of water. I think it should be at least about a fair price, about $50, $60 a month. I mean, we pay over $70, that's too much. But at least I would say cap it at $50 a month, same as they do the energy such.
So to close out, can you maybe tell us a story or recount an episode that either really inspired you or moved you, or maybe just plumbing broke your heart?
Oh man, I have seen some things dealing with this water crisis. One of my clients actually, two of my clients passed away. Miss Fayette Coleman, she was a 77-year-old lady, and she was full of fire and energy, and she was definitely giving it to some of those evildoers who claim to be our city officials. She made them have a heart. She went without water for 2 years. She was collecting rainwater from her garbage can. She was living in a land bank house, and it just wasn't feasible for her to even live there, you know, because it was in the dead of winter. So we worked for like a year or so trying to get her out of our house, trying to get the water bill forgiven. They wouldn't forgive the water bill because it was under someone else's name, a slumlord that was out of state. She ended up making the news. She made the front page, and it broke the whole internet's heart over Christmas that we have our seniors with their water shut off with no food and no adequate resources. And this is how we treat our seniors. So she got a brand new house. She got a brand new apartment, a brand new dwelling from Southwest Solutions. And she's been living her best life in downtown Detroit. The problem was she passed away this past May from complications of medical complications. And I believe it's from the water shutoffs.
2 years.
Yeah. 2 years of not having no adequate water, and you know, even though the bottled water won't count. I even said that we would stop delivering bottled water because we were contributing, well, not knowingly contributing to the problem of privatization. We would make sure that we would do whatever we can to get that water services on, but also make sure that we could fight whatever that was to come. Another story of mine was a client, Miss Dakota Booker. She was 54 years old. And she fought for everything that she worked hard for. She stayed in the people's offices when it came to her Section 8, when it came to her benefits. She tried to make sure everything was in tip-top shape, doing what she was supposed to do. And she died from liver issues. I can't pronounce the name of her condition. But she died because she was on a colostomy bag, and she was having issues with her. She was on a colostomy bag, where meaning that she might have to, you know, sometimes she had to use it through a bag. She needed water for her machine. But Miss Dakota Booker, she was also one of those go-getters. Like, you know, once she get herself together, she would be in the people's offices, at the DHS office, at the FIA office, doing whatever she could to keep up on her. And it's just stressful. You know, she lost her job and things got a little hard. So what happens when you lose income, like everything could just spiral out of control real quick. And water shutoffs are like, you know, imminent danger. So when she got her water shut off, we worked hard to help raise money for her to get her water turned back on. We delivered water for her and took care of her puppy. I had a friend that was working on the organization that provided dog food and such to residents who couldn't afford it. So those two stories were like what made me want to fight even harder, because it could be, you know, it could be any one of us. My mom was one of those people who always went through charity, always went through different services and such to get, like, you know, help, you know. And what these services are supposed to be, you know, for people, if they can't get any help or so, then that's what these services are supposed to do, is to help people. And also have a heart to care for people, you know, because that could well be one of our people, and we're giving them whatever we can to help. So we need to give that same Detroit love back to those, you know, that are definitely in need. I have plenty of other stories, and some of them, I tell you, like the worst that really made me think like we really need to do something is my client that has the $9,500 water bill, and she lived in a bank, like a bank-owned property that she literally bought from them and was swindled out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the foreclosure was imminent, which she worked to get her house out of foreclosure. She worked to get herself back together, and she worked to find, you know, the balance. But the water bill was over $9,000, and they would not come down. So it had to take all of the established organizations to help her come down with that bill. And it did not work because they weren't able to pay off because they didn't have the money. So with me at the helm and me saying, yo, this ain't working here, you know what I'm saying? So we went to the public We went on Facebook. We advertised on social media. I hate doing those things because it makes us, that breaks our pride. Or we have to beg our friends and family. We have to beg people, normal strangers and humans, you know, to help out people that don't even have a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of. People that were swindled, people that were given bad deals and was taken for so much that they didn't even own. People that are getting into homes that they don't even know if they're going to be there the next month, you know, and people that are definitely at destitute levels. And what is the city supposed to do? The city's supposed to have home modification loans for those that are dealing with foreclosure. They have not had any such. There's supposed to be money to help with people that need certain resources. Well, that money has been reallocated and been sent to other places. And, you know, every day, I mean, I never had a thought of giving up. We can't give up because we're the only trusted organization that people could rely on. People could call. People don't even know what Hydrate Detroit was, never heard of it, but they like what they hear, they like what they see, and they like what they're getting. And we're not as established as the United Way and others and such like that, but we are working to make sure that this is a resource for anybody that's in need, you know what I'm saying? Such as Jerry Kids, such as Save the Children, and such. Hydrate Detroit shall be a charity, and it should help people that are in in need. I always look at Mother Charles Etta Waters. She's a local philanthropist, passed on, but she's a legendary philanthropist that gave her heart and gave her commitment to the city of Detroit. If there were people that were naked, she would give them clothes. If there were people that was hungry, she'll give them food. If there were people that were in need to get help, to get a job, to get clean, or however that they need to do, she had no judgment or bias. She points you to the right direction, and it's up to you to handle that. And that's basically why we had this organization, because we wanted to make sure that love, empathy, and compassion was at the top vision and the mission of the organization, so that we can, you know, share with Detroiters. Because when you share love, you share water, you are sharing compassion. And I want stories of, you know, triumph and tribulation and oh my God moments and people crying and folks that are, you know, literally not knowing, you know, they were praying and they were in a moment of hell a few minutes ago before they dialed this number. They thought they were going to get rejected until we said we'll help them, you know. And we want to be that organization that's on the ground for people that need help or resources and such, even if it's just calling to get advice. Yeah, those phone lines are never going to close.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for your work. And you know, we're all rooting for you to continue this cool work.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you for the opportunity. This is amazing. Yeah.